Good morning. How are we all? Happy Thursday. And welcome to today's Elevate Your Business, where we are going to have a look at messaging that sells. So, I know we've got new people to the group. So, hi guys. I'm delighted to have you here. So, for those of you that don't know me and are new to this group, I'm Joanne O'Halloran. I'm a business success coach for female entrepreneurs in the service-based industries. So, as in coaching, consultants, holistic therapists, and I show them how to generate consistent clients by building momentum in your business, because I'm a fan of like the long-term game and having a sustainable business rather than quick fixes. Because in my own experiences, quick fixes are great when you have a platform, but when you don't have a platform of where you're getting consistent results, quick fixes just don't work. Because like what happens with the back end stuff, right? We just don't know. So today what we're going to do is every Thursday at 11 a.m. on GMT time, I do an Elevate Your Business where I walk through different steps and different stages of your business and give you tips and tools for things that will genuinely support you once you apply them and put them into action. So today we're going to have a look at messaging that sells, and this is one that was such a struggle for me at the start, and actually for the first, I'd say, 8 months of my business. And then it started to click, and in the last year it's really clicked. So I want to be able to share this with you and share with you the different stages, what it looks like, and how you go about creating this and generating and replicating it in your own business, because our messaging is what actually lands our clients with us. And well, our messaging plus our energy is what lands. So your messaging is from everything from the moment that somebody comes in contact with you, like that attracts them to you, all the way through to your offer is all messaging. And it's really important that you know what the messaging is that sells. In my experience, what I see an awful lot of people doing is going really broad with their messaging and using industry lingo versus what actually is going to convert. And as human beings, we don't actually buy the service or product, we buy what it's going to do in our lives. So it's an emotional impact is what we buy. It's not actually the product or the service. The product or the service is what will get us to that point, but it's getting us aware that we need this is what people buy. So let's start at the very beginning stage, at the very conception stages, and around your messaging. I have been having this conversation repeatedly this week. I am running a challenge at the moment for my email list, and you guys will have access to it in 2 weeks' time. Just to give you the little bitty heads up, that will be announced on Monday properly. But I'm walking them through a challenge at the moment, and everything is about messaging and how you show up. And we've taken them from the very beginning stages of when somebody first comes to you, what attracts them to you, straight through to how do you close them at an offer. So I'm going to give you the steps. The very first point of your contact is what's called a cold lead, right? Where it's basically somebody may have come across you, or they may have well, actually no, they will just have come across you. So no matter what social media platform you're on, they'll have just come across you and they'll have decided to either like or follow you. That's a very cold lead. At that point, something that you will have said will have called them in, and being aware of what that is really important to get like messaging that really hits home and that lands with people and pulls people in. You've got to understand who those people are. So if right now you do not know who you serve, like who, as a service provider, who you're actually serving, you've got to get super clear on that, okay? And niche down. And this is like, again, a repeated conversation that's been had this week around niching down. Whatever your own personal experience is within the service that you're providing is what you get to share. It's not trying to fix somebody else's situation based on something that you haven't actually gone through yourself. So what I mean by that is, take me, right? I show you how to generate consistent clients because I've done that. I know the pain points that are there. I know all the beautiful things that I did that failed miserably. And I know what it took to have this rinse and repeat system, which is why I'm able to show that. If I was to turn around and go, do you know what? I'm going to show you how to be a millionaire. I've never done that. how could I show you? I can't. So I'd be lying, right? Or if I said to you, do you know what? I'm going to show you how to sell belts on the side of the road. I've never done that. How could I show you how to do that? I can't, right? Um, will my methods work for that? Probably. Am I willing to stand behind that? Nope. It's straight up. So niche down, right? Completely come down for who it is that you are supporting on their journey and what you're supporting them with so that you can get your message into land. So let's say somebody has just come across your page, okay? They've just come across it. How then do you get them from being a cold lead into a warm lead? So how do you move them? Because they need to be warm to sell, right? For all that stuff that you see that you can generate traffic from being a cold lead into buying, there's a whole process that gets to be followed, right? So if you take anything away from this, please take away that quick fixes don't work. There's bits in between all of these. It's like somebody being an overnight success story. There's no such thing. There's a huge amount of work that went on in the background between mindset and strategy to get somebody to be that overnight success, right? So it's the same with getting your message into land and getting somebody from cold to absolutely ready to buy. And it'll come down to your connection with them. So how do you figure out what your messaging is and how it's going to support people from where they're at? Here's the fun thing: you ask them. You ask them. So what I mean by that is, I'll give you for my example. So for me in business, right? For me to create information that people want to know about, or create an offer for my service that people want to purchase, I need to know what their current issues are right now. So my favorite thing to do is go, well, what are people Googling at night? Like when I'm sitting there Googling. So if I take me, for instance, when I was starting out my business, I was like, how do I get clients? I wanted to know how I got clients. And if I'm being honest, I also want to know how did I get them without having to put myself online because I was so shy, right? So this is stuff I can talk into because I did that. So how do I get clients? And then how do I convert sales? But if truth be known, what are you really looking for? You're looking for how do you get sales? How do you get sales? So what's the journey to get somebody to there? So my messaging would always be around sales and getting sales and converting sales and all those fun things because that's what people need. How do I know that? Because I ask them. So to know whatever messaging is going to land with your audience to get them from being cold into hot, like as in ready to buy, you've got to ask them. Ask them questions. Don't be afraid to connect with people and ask. So you can do that in multiple ways, right? You could actually literally physically go ask them. So you can call them, you can ask them on the street, like, but it has to be people that fit into your niche. You can send them messages. You can ask questions on like polls, because there's polls like want stories into like your Facebook page, onto LinkedIn. You can send people voice messages and ask them. You can leave a question at the end of a post and ask people. All of that is feedback. That feedback then will help you with your messaging, and your messaging needs to be bold. Cannot be wishy-washy. Cannot be wishy-washy. Like the one post that got me the most comments, and there was actually nothing behind it. It wasn't it was just maybe me and me talk how I talk. So for anyone that doesn't know me and that is new here, I curse and I say things like they are, and I'm very direct. Do I tailor that at times? Of course I do, but that is my MO, right? That's my way of, that's just my way, and I own that. So therefore when I speak it, it's going to cause a reaction. Okay, you want that. You want messaging that's going to cause a reaction. The one post for me that got the biggest amount of interactions was one that I put up, and I literally said, "Are you full of shit?" And of course, when somebody says something like that, you're like, "Did she really say that? Is she allowed to say that? Is she asking that?" Right? So it stops people dead in their tracks. Great. Now read what's underneath it. This is what I want you to know. Right? So that's the messaging that sells, is when you're very direct and you're saying the things that people need to hear but don't want to hear. So like, if you are a health coach, what is something that you can see everywhere but people aren't talking about? Like, for example, with weight loss, right? Let's take weight loss. People want to know, okay, how do I lose weight? What they really need is, how do I keep it off and how do I maintain a healthy lifestyle? But what are they not saying? What they're not saying is that I can't be bothered because that means the rest of my family won't do it, and I'm not willing to give up like my nights out and changing how I cook or changing the shopping because I can't be bothered having those conversations. So that's where you get to support and you get to speak into messaging around that supports people, but truly supports someone where they're at. Like, when you're just trying to play into the happy, nice stuff, that will get you so far. But then how do people know that you really understand them? Because you've got to say the things to them that they don't like being said. So like if I think of my current business coach and what attracted me to her was, and she was like, because she was talking about it on a challenge, she's like, when you get out the gate, like you get out the gate really, really fast and then you stop dead. And then you're like, well, clearly I'm not able to do this. And then you start looking for the next thing because that didn't work. And I was like, yeah, okay, that's me. That's me. So that brought awareness to the fact that actually I had a problem with completion. I had a problem with finishing. For other people, it's they won't make decisions really quickly. But it's being bold and speaking out what works. So from a messaging point of view, you've got to understand where people are at by asking them. So if this is something that you haven't done yet, reach out to 10 people today that you know fit into your ideal client, fit into that niche, and then ask them the questions. Why haven't they got to where they want to be? Whether it's like health, relationships, business, work, another job, whatever it is, ask them those questions. Why have they not got to where they want to be? What's the one thing that they need right now that would get them there? And then use that to define your messaging and have it that you do it everywhere. Your messaging for a period of time gets to focus on the same thing so that you're resonating with people, because it's very silly to think that just because you put up a post somebody's going to see it the first time around. It's highly unlikely they will, unless like you're new to their feed or they're constantly engaging with you. It's highly unlikely that they'll see the post when you put it up, which is why you've got to be very focused on it and concentrate your efforts on that, particularly if you're going into a launch. If your messaging is on lots of different things, what's it going to end up doing? People are not really going to be focused on that. They're not going to be connected with what your messaging is. And it's just a nice to have, it's a nice to follow. And that means then your business is a hobby. Our businesses aren't hobbies, right? We're actually here to make a living. So focus on your messaging. So your key takeaways for today are: niche down if you haven't yet. Be very clear on who it is that you're serving. Find out exactly what it is that's going on with them. Why have they not got to where they want to be? What is the one thing that would support them with that? And then deliver it. Deliver it in your content over and 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 over. And then when you go into a launch, you will have people that are highly convertible because you've continued to speak into it. You've continued to be the source of inspiration, the source of expertise, and be really bold. Use really bold words. If you Google powerful emotional words, you will find a list of them, the words that you get to use. Because when you're using things like say if we let's talk about weight just because it was still there. So like it's around, like if you say people are saying they can't lose weight, well, is it that you can't or you won't? Like, are you not willing to move past what's comfortable? So therefore, what are you going to do? You're going to continue to sit and bitch and moan. Do you hop from new thing to new thing to new thing because you won't actually stay the course? You're not actually willing to do the work. Are these your like, do these 5 things hit home with you, or do these 5 things resonate with you? And if this is you, here's what you can do. So be very direct. Hit them in like the things that they want to get and the things that aren't working for them. Like really drive home that messaging so that when you get to your launch, it's going to be highly convertible. So there are the key takeaways for today, and I would love for you to put down below what you're going to do with this, where you're going to implement this messaging and what your messaging is. Like, what is that one point that you are going to absolutely drive home for the next 2 weeks? Be bold, be brave, get it done. See you next week.